Welcome to this episode of the First Moves podcast. This week, we're speaking to Sunny Jiang, who is an extremely experienced and knowledgeable person in the fields of Web3, AI, crypto, and blockchain. She's been a delegate for the UK Parliament, the EU Parliament, and the UN General Assembly, and she's also started multiple organizations in these fields. If you want to learn about the future of finance and where things are going, Sunny is incredibly knowledgeable, and we really enjoyed this conversation. We hope you do too. We hope you enjoy the show.
Sunny, welcome to the podcast. Could you maybe give us a little bit of an introduction to who are you?
Oh, thank you very much for having me today. It's my pleasure. And okay, my name is Sunny Jiang, and I live in Maastricht since 2010. So it's almost 15 years already. I studied also in Maastricht University. I founded my company, Mars Ventures, 2 years ago. So I'm active in imaging technology, digital assets, and a lot of work. Yeah.
Could you maybe explain a bit about the breadth of work that you do? You work in Web3, AI, you said digital assets, Mass Valley is also an investment organization. So how wide-reaching is your work that you do?
Yeah. Let's see. Mars Ventures, because I launched quite some program, and Mars Ventures is legally registered in the Netherlands, and it's an investing platform, and that's I would like to bring different assets on chain. So that means bring asset to the blockchain, and there are several different asset class. For instance. Of course, crypto asset is one, and then I'm very active in so-called nature asset. Or if you know a little bit, there's carbon credit, there's biodiversity credit, all these kind of things came up. So I just try to this party also can somehow cause impact. So I try to bring impact to the let's say family offices, for instance, because. That can be we can dive that deeper later, but just briefly mention about that. On the other hand, I try to democratize in investing and allowed people to have chance to step in with low amounts, also to access the asset that they can't access before. So that basically is what my company is doing. But it looks like a lot of sense. On the one hand, is because I'm active to bring different assets on chain. So for instance, I am also active in fine art, and for me, art is also the asset. It's one of the assets, and it's just a matter that I try to bring different asset class and develop different asset class. On the other hand, because this investing platform is heavily related to or applied to the imaging technology. For instance, if you heard about or familiar with tokenization of real-world assets, it falls into this category. And of course, I'm in blockchain and crypto heavily in it. And partly I also try to apply AI to that. So that's why I would say it's an investing platform, but it's really tech-based.
Right. And where did this drive to democratize and lower the barriers for these kinds of investments come from?
If you look from technical point of view, that exactly is an application of tokenization, if you heard about these words. That you can kind of allow the people to co-own or own a fragment of the big assets. That you, for instance, just example, if you heard about fine art masterpieces, it can be 10 million. Of course, not everybody can afford that. But just example, if you tokenize this fine art, but of course you have to find a good way to do that, and you can allow, just example, if you can allow people to step in with 1K or 10K, then you own a part of that. For instance, this Mona Lisa, example. Then you own part of that. But of course, it's not that simple, because first you need to, technical-wise and also financial-wise and also legal-wise, there are many concerns about that. But I think the whole industry is developing very fast. I think this somehow in the coming 3-5 years, it's really a critical year that we will make a significant milestone for tokenization. I believe eventually all the assets will be on chain. So just started with some major assets. Yeah.
What are the biggest barriers then that are holding the mainstream adoption back of this right now then? If you say that this is going to happen in the next 5 years, why not now?
Well, we should allow it a little bit, be a little bit more patient because blockchain, the whole thing, if you look back to the release of the white paper for Bitcoin, we have around 15 years. It's very short time. And in fact, nobody is questioning about AI. In fact, AI already developed, I would say 50 years or 60 years. You go back to 1960 or 1970, something like that. Only when 3 years ago, when ChatGPT came up, it became a killer app. It's suddenly become popular. But before that, it's also a very long time, very boring time, and somehow also silent time. So I think it's natural for all the development of technology. So for blockchain, it's the same. It only has such a short time, and we predict, because in the past several years, I would say 5 years or the whole infrastructure is more or less there. But of course, the innovations keep evolving. We predict that 2030 will be a big milestone for adoption. So that's also partly because the legal and regulation somehow catch up. If you heard about MiCA in Europe, it's just entered into force by 30 December last year. So just kind of 1 month ago. So that is give a kind of clarity about crypto assets. So it's such a new thing. And when policy or regulations are there, and when technology are there, and we know there are so many innovators worldwide, and slowly, I think the adoption will be there.
I mean, you've also worked, if I'm not mistaken, with some of these regulatory bodies, right? With the European Parliament, for example, about topics like this. What is it like to be a practitioner in the field working together with these kinds of regulatory bodies to try and align regulation with kind of the real world needs of the technology and how it can be used?
Yeah, I would say they are very important. It's also because of the stage of the development of the technology. In the beginning, it's so wild, I would say. Just focus on technology, do whatever, right? I think we have those kind of age, maybe 10 years ago, something like that. And then it's really is a very natural cycle. It is like that. And when it's gain popular, also like AI, it's when you gain popularity and of course, you're concerned about the healthy or the health of the market, and or somehow you call that protect the consumer or things like that. Especially blockchain touched a lot of finance money. Yeah, so AI is somehow do not direct touch that, but crypto, yes. So how to regulate that and find a balance on the one hand to allow it and encourage innovation. On the other hand, to really protect, because we also know there are so many scams, there are so many people just taking advantage of that. So those are not okay, and we need to find a good balance. So I think. In the recent years, I think policy becomes very important, and happy to see that in many countries. Especially we are in Europe, in the European level. Several years ago, they already started to, because it takes time to develop. But until 1 month ago, in fact, that law is effective already. So I think it's good that it's not. I'm not saying that is 100% perfect law. We all need to test it a little bit and to see how. Yeah, there are some critics about MiCA as well, to see that's too strict, and it's not that helpful, for instance, for small business, because you need to somehow, if you force into, you need to somehow apply a license. It easily can spend you 100K, and that's for a bank. It's a piece of it's a peanut, but for a small business, for instance, if you start a crypto business, even you want to consult tomorrow, you first need to get that license. You have to spend 100K. That's kill you. So I hope that I think we will see the coming half year. I know there's a long queue. Everybody's jumping the queue, try to get the license to continue their business, especially if they force into the crypto law. And I think in half year or this year, 2025 will be very interesting because we will see the feedback and we will see the interaction between the policymaker and also the companies. I think that's very healthy. We need those kind of test market feedback, and can be that later we will adjust a little bit. But so far, as I personally also participate to several roundtable, as you mentioned, in UK Parliament and also in European Parliament, I would say it's great that this kind of technology, because it's become significant and it gains attention to them to them, and there are many discussions. Of course, nobody can claim they are experts. Even I can't say I'm an expert. I only can say I have more knowledge on that part. But everybody is learning. That's also another part, because we'll talk a lot about that, because education is somehow. It's a big gap in education, because you can't say, well, can you learn crypto? In which university can you learn that? No, everybody just self-taught, because they just search online the information and driven by their own passion, whatever. And indeed, there are many materials online that you can learn. Well, on the other hand, I find that it's really a little pity so far. There's not that much of universities officially that they provide courses for crypto or for blockchain. Somehow there are some mentioning about that as part of economics or as part of computer science, but it's alone. I believe it should be a kind of standalone discipline that there are so many things to research, to study on that.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it's a very new thing, like you said.
Yeah,
AI has been developed for decades.
Yeah. More than that.
And the blockchain is very recent. Like you said, the white paper for Bitcoin 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that there's a lot of tensions there in some sense that need to be resolved. How do you manage innovation and giving freedom to the market versus regulating it, because people are misusing it? Mm-hmm. So I can imagine that there's a lot to figure out. How do you think that now having these policies in place will shape the important adoption period that you mentioned for the coming 3 to 5 years? What do you kind of see as maybe some lessons and things like this that you hope to maybe gain as someone who's also learning through this process?
Yeah. Everything we need, in fact, if using one word for that, is clarity. Because without clarity, you don't know whether you are cross-border or you, what can you do? What means legal? What means illegal? So a lot of things, let's say, especially the institution organizations, they are not too step into, because there's no clarity before. But now I saw that good, kind of good thing for now is that many institutions, like a bank, like kind of investment companies, whatever, and they are all somehow in the crypto for now. As you maybe noticed 1 year ago, the Bitcoin ETF launched. That in fact is still traditional kind of a stock. ETF is kind of stock. While it's a great movement, I would say, to allow more people. It's not directly but indirectly to invest on the crypto. I think that it's just step by step, and it's also a kind of a test of all the organization to try to find a way, also innovative way, to make it workable. So I think it's a good sign.
Yeah, I think that clarity is also, or a lack of clarity is maybe what holds a lot of institutions and individuals back now.
Yeah.
And why institutions like organizations and, not like organizations, like universities, for example, are not yet there in terms of their education, because the clarity maybe isn't there yet.
Yeah.
So the teaching would be a very explorative way of teaching, and maybe trying to find out what's happening rather than saying this is what is happening.
Yeah. There are several universities in the world. They started kind of master program of blockchain or something like that. I think it's good. It's great development. I was in fact also in Stanford University. I think 2 years ago. I was amazed at the innovation there. For instance, they have every year the science or blockchain conference, and you really see those computer science students how they try to bring the disruptive innovation in this space. I think that's really great. And as I said, in Europe, the law is just entered into force 1 month ago. So it's just started. I would say, I also hope that in the coming years, more program, more business, and more initiation will come, because we hope this law can give clarity, and then the business will come. Yeah.
So you just mentioned the UK as well as being pushing this a lot. You travel around a lot for your work as well, as we talked before the episode as well, that you just came back from traveling.
Yeah.
Where do you see the most progressive blockchain innovation happening, and what can we in Europe learn from that if that isn't in Europe?
Yeah, it's very interesting because blockchain itself is the nature of blockchain itself is decentralized. So decentralization means it's borderless. So basically, if you talk about launch a public chain, you're not targeting user in a country or in a region. It's global. It's global. Well, of course, but if you look at it from the digital asset point of view, and if you force into the regulation, then you have to comply with the regional law. So far, as I mentioned, Europe has that already, and the UK, I think they started to if you heard about stablecoin, that is also a very, very hot topic for now, and they try to make their regulation for that. And on the other hand, for instance, Middle East and also Asia countries, like Asian countries, regions. I was in Hong Kong. I was in Singapore. I know that they all have, they all are very active to develop the policy and the regulation locally as well. So the point is that slowly everybody realized, especially the country or cities who are traditionally fintech, strong as fintech, they slowly realized the crypto or digital asset, they are the future of finance. So if you are not there for now, then you are not ready for the future, and then you will be out. So nobody wants to be out for that. That's why you see the cities like London, because traditionally they are a fintech city, like Hong Kong, like Singapore, they are very active and try to stay ahead of these new trends.
I think I want to switch gears a bit, because we're talking a lot about policy, which is then going more towards long-term adoption and having these technologies enter the mainstream. But there's a lot of people, like you said, who are extremely passionate working on these things already, who are showing these bigger institutions and organizations that they need to catch up for the future. Part of this for you is also mentoring a lot of companies and helping them out who are working in this space. What kind of issues are these kinds of organizations running into, and how are you trying to help them find kind of their way in this new space?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Then you talk about, there are two parts, I would say. One is big institutes, like banks, like organizations. And then on the other hand, you have innovative startups. And for the startups, it's amazing to see in the past 10 years, because there are really some pioneers. They started very early. And you say if they survive in 5 years, I think 5 years is good. It's a very critical, and because you saw a lot of initiation. Probably they disappeared in 2-3 years. But if they can survive 5 years, just give example like Ethereum. You heard about this. This is one of the biggest smart contract-based blockchain. So from I think it's 2016 or 17 till now, it's almost 8-9 years. And then you saw there are it looks like there are thousands of hundreds of chain, but in the end, what in your mind, what remains, I think it's just 10 or 20, something like that. So those chain, for instance, Solana's, for instance, you heard about maybe a lot of second layer of chain surrounded by Ethereum, and there are also others. So maybe 10 or 20 remains, but of course there are more are still try to find their way. And on the other hand, okay, those are chains. On the other hand, you have all kind of applications because the chain itself is kind of like an infrastructure, and without application, it's useless. So interesting to say that's also it's kind of a strategy for the future of company that they need to seriously think about is that what do you win now can be that you build a very strong product and you gain clients, but what keep you win in the future that you must have a very strong ecosystem rather than that you have a very strong product. So just like example like Bitcoin or like Ethereum, because Bitcoin so far there are many developments on Bitcoin as well, try to make a Bitcoin more applicable rather than just as a coin itself running. And then you say very important that they need to engage hundreds of thousands of developers to develop the application. So there are a lot of application-based startups. That's great, and they try to bring all kind of use cases from all kind of angles, applying blockchain. And so, on the other hand, crypto, because somehow people are still not that much favor of talking about crypto because people still have a misunderstanding. They see crypto as kind of criminal. Really, some people when they think about crypto, they think that's criminal. So that's really misunderstanding. So, but when those things, the crypto or Web3 companies, the way how they develop themselves is quite different than traditional startups because they can already using the power of crypto in the beginning to raise funds for themselves. In fact, of course, need to be legally. And I'm happy to interact with quite a lot of startups in this domain. I'm still a mentor in the Outside Ventures based in London. They are very early movers for as an accelerator and an investor for Web3 startups. I was there for many cohort, supported many cohort already. Like specific theme based like Bitcoin Basecamp. They have Bitcoin Basecamp. It's all Bitcoin related startup. Then you have real asset RWA. That's a very hot topic as well. And then you have AI crypto Basecamp because that somehow is one of the really hot topic or hot stream for now. Somehow you can call that decentralized AI, but sometimes it's just called as AI plus crypto. And just example for that. So a lot of innovations going on. I would say let's market to judge is similar. That's with respect to that part, it's similar. That market is the final judge, whether a company can survive or not. If they really bring value or really solve problem, I think that doesn't change. That doesn't change. And then you see many. We normally know 90% of startup will not survive, and in crypto or in Web3, the percentage is even higher, I would say. But if they remain, it's exponential. It's exponential. So that's amazing. So that's why I think a lot of venture capital for now specialized for Web3 AI. Somehow they call it exponential tech. So many new funds came up recent years, a lot. You don't see that much of this kind of specialized fund. Maybe 10 years ago, you don't see that. But now you see it. Yeah.
I'm not very well versed in a lot of these topics. and I can imagine there's listeners who have the same. With your knowledge, could you maybe just explain what Web3 is? It's maybe a stupid question, but I want to get that clear in my head.
Yeah. Well, in fact, to be frank, nobody can clearly define what is Web3. And also sometimes people say Web4 or Web5. And it's a term or it's a name. It just seems like nobody can explain clearly what is metaverse or something like that. But I would say we are keeping evolving the internet, and the internet, I think, in around 2000, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that was absolutely amazing to really make changes of the whole world, right? Because we call that internet of how you call that message, communication or messages, because. Before that, if you want to deliver a message to someone, either you travel to another city, or that's really ancient times, but you can't imagine that. But the whole internet changed this. And now, when we enter into so-called Web3, it's called the so-called internet of value. So it's kind of to allow the value to be easier to move and to be easier to transact. That is something beyond the imagination of many people. Still, I would say. That's why I said I believe in the end, where all the assets will be on chain, because as long as you see the asset has a value, they can be on chain and be part of the kind of a value that you can transact. And then it will be very easy for people to transact value in this new internet. But if you look further, look in the future, how it will evolve in the future. To be frank, the whole Web3 evolves so fast. If you don't keep learning or keep following up for even some 1 month or sometimes 1 week, you find that there are new terms, there are new things came up already, and now we already know, even if it's just developed several years, and we already learned that for sure there is a convergence of AI with blockchain. It's not alone. It's not alone. We kind of believe that in the future the web, the internet will be evolved. Okay, one step back. So the current website, the current internet. If we call it front end, the back end, just make it simple. Front end is kind of web page, right? That's the page that's interactive with you, and then you have back end that you can say that's the kind of program in the server, whatever, but to make it functional, and you can access, you can read and you can write. Basically, the current website, the function is so simple. You just read and write. Yeah, either you read or you write. That's it. But the future of web, or the current web, we call that own. So from read, write to own. In fact, there was a book from one of the top VC, A16Z, Chris Dixon. I got a signed book from him in Harvard University last year. It was amazing. He wrote a book 1 year ago about read, write, own. Exactly is to describe how the website, the internet evolves. So again, that book was 1 year ago. Till now, so many things happened again. So what we predict in the future, own itself is not enough already. So the future, we believe, the front end is AI agent. So it's agentic AI network. So that will be the front end. And the back end is blockchain. So the blockchain will replace the current the back ends. So that means it's very scary. That also means probably we will not have software anymore, because when we talk about SaaS or software as a business, it's already, it helps us so many years already, and it's like a static program, right? It's just a program. It's static, and there's a function, and you can interact with it. But in the future, as we said, predict. The front end is agent, the back end is blockchain. These sets will be the future of internet, and probably like many, great minds, they predict in the future the software, the SaaS will disappear, and instead what we have is what we just described, the future of internet.
I wanted to ask, because we've talked now a lot about the AI and tokenization, finance, blockchain, how this is going to be the future of everything. Maybe a question about the sustainability of this, because right, there's a lot of data behind the data storage units that need to be cooled down, supercomputers that are needed to make all of this AI and all these applications. How do you see this impacting the sustainability of the future world?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think sustainability, in fact, it's a standalone discipline, whatever. As you heard about SDG, ESG, that's such a hot topic. I was in many occasions, also including United Nations General Assembly last year in September in New York. I participated to the London Climate Action Week, also the New York Climate Week. There are so many things going on. But of course, when we talk about sustainability, we always think about ESG, so the social, environmental, or governance, or these kind of things. On the other hand, I think everybody slowly aware that the current model, business models especially, many of that are not sustainable, right? It's regardless of ESG or whatever. And it is not sustainable, and because it's cost too much of or consumed too much of our resources for the benefit of time being, and which if we look longer, our next generations and even further. So if we overused the resources now and just for a little bit more benefit for now, that doesn't work for in the future. So when you mentioned about the sustainability in blockchain or in AI, I think you are more referred to, for instance, the energy use of them.
Yeah.
I would say that's very interesting, because in the end, the old arguments in the end, well, no matter what kind of technology, can be there are new technology came up, quantum, whatever. So in the end, they cost energy. And without energy, nothing's running. And the limits of, in fact, the exponential effect of the whole technology is the energy in the end. So energy is limited, as we saw. Can be unlimited, but with what we can, as a human being, that's with our knowledge that we can develop the energy, so far is still limited. Can be the energy itself is unlimited. And I would see, of course, we try to find a balance on that. But if you look at blockchain specific for the use of energy, maybe you refer to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin use a kind of consensus called proof of work. And proof of work is just like solve a puzzle. That you need to solve a puzzle, which means that you need to compute the logs in your computer in order to solve a puzzle and to find the kind of answer. And when you have the right answer and you are right, and then you are eligible or to put a block on kind of you are the next block, something like that. So that is the way how proof of work defines the way, that's the game, in fact. That's the game how Bitcoin works. And of course, there are a lot of critics about, you're just running computing for solve a puzzle and spend so many energy, whether it's worth to do like this. But first, I would see many other chains, they are using different consensus, like proof of stake or combined or whatever. And it's not require that much of energy at all. So basically, it's very little, only for Bitcoin. But I would say it's worth to do so, because you have to see what you gain and to see what you cost, right? You cost energy, but what do you gain? And what, in fact, the whole proof of work mechanism provides security. And that's why Bitcoin is so-called the most secure blockchain in the world so far. And also it's not one of, it's the biggest chain in the world with respect to, if you talk about, if you look into the so-called nodes, so how many nodes, how many operators in the world, Bitcoin is the largest blockchain. So if you look at the impact, and of course people will say, what exactly is the value Bitcoin bring to us? I would say let's be patient and give a little bit of time to develop. I believe eventually the whole blockchain will be the next generation of the finance. As we know now, when we transact money in the bank, we use, for instance, SWIFT or all these kind of system. But this system exists, I think, maybe I do not have an accurate number, but I think it's 20 years, 10, 20 years already. And it's somehow easy at the moment to think about the new or maybe more efficient way of transaction. Yeah, in blockchain, you will not believe how can transact money cost several days. And okay, also the bank has opening time, the close time. So after 5 o'clock, you can't transact money anymore. That's unbelievable in blockchain because every block is permissionless. It's you can access everywhere. You can't say that's block closed after 5 o'clock. It takes 2 days for that block to be on chain. Then people will be crazy about that, right? So that is really interesting to see how that's in fact is how the technology develops. So what's normal in the past is not normal in the future. So that's what I believe. The Bitcoin system can be very useful if that helps on payment, helps on transaction, helps on many other kind of use cases, especially in the finance. But we still need some time to develop on that. Well, if you answer exactly to your question, if you compare the use of Bitcoin, the energy use of Bitcoin to the use of the energy of banking system, we have so many banks. They have offices. The light they use and the computer they use, whatever, all together, Bitcoin is much, much, much lower. The energy is used. The computing game, the solve the puzzle proof work, it's much, much less than the whole banking system we have now. So in fact, it is like that. On the other hand, it's very interesting to say there are many innovative startups. They try to using proof of work as a way to store the value. For instance, kind of they try, the new energy, the green energy. One of the big challenges that is the storage of the energy, because if you can't store it, you don't use it, it's waste, right? And some companies, I think in Amsterdam, they kind of create a kind of the wind farm in the sea. On the other hand, they link to Bitcoin. And use that using that to mine and kind of store the value of that electricity. So there are many innovative use cases came up, but that's just maybe nice to mention a little bit. But in general, I would say as a new technology, the value is not yet fully released. We should be patient. Somehow be a little bit more patient about that. On the other hand, we will know the new way. If the value be fully released, the energy cost they have, in fact, is much lower than the traditional way.
Yeah, and also like what you said with innovative startups, obviously this is also going to get refined later on, right? Like right now we're in the beginning of it. Once it's been there for a while, there's obviously going to be companies that find, we can do this at a 10% more efficient or 20% more efficient, and then you get that energy use down as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This conversation made me think of another point, which is that when you talk about Web3 and you say read, write, own, I think a lot of people are also skeptical about these kinds of things because in the past, currencies and values and things like this have been linked to tangible things like gold, right? There's a classic example that the dollar was matched to gold for a long time. I'm wondering now, I think there's a lot of skepticism and a lot of nervousness around having things of value be intangible and just in code, essentially, right? You could imagine that if, the server breaks down or the computers break or whatever happens, I think some people will imagine that then all the value is gone and then we lose all this money, we get an economic crash or whatever. Are there certain realities of this idea, or are there also certain myths about them in terms of what kind of risk there are to putting our value into code and software and servers and things like this.
Yeah, I think that again is the gap of education because if you ask people in the streets who really understand Bitcoin, no.
Me neither. No.
Yeah, the thing is that you mentioned about gold. To be frank, you can see that just a stone, right? Why a stone has value? Because it's a scale. But if you say every stone in the street is gold, the gold has no value anymore. So that's also come up with if then you really need to go back to what is money and what is value, something like that. So I'm still a mentor of Bitcoin talents in Frankfurt School Blockchain Center. And when we start this program, I think we just started the cohort 4 as well. And we always started to just go back to the nature of money itself. Because if you look at the money, in the ancient times, you use stones, you use whatever as a way to transact value, and then later you have kind of paper money, and you have that. It's an evolvement because that's also somehow matched with the civilization at that moment. So something we need to really be aware of is that we enter into digital era, and maybe that is not yet. We know, especially in Europe, I think we still send the cards to everyone, and we still use somehow the paper money, and the notes, bank notes, whatever. There was a time, but if you say another 100 years, another 200 years, what will happen? We are really entering into the digital era, but still, that is a concept. Not everyone can imagine what is that. The digital era means that you need to have a matched money for that as well. You can't use the paper money for the digital world. In fact, for instance, like that. And in fact, what I believe, the whole crypto is is prepared for the future to transact the value. So they are matching with the future, the digital world. But if you say now we are the AI whatever, when we talk about that, we are still say as another thing because it's not yet that we integrate that much. Yes, it's true because we only have several applications now. That's still far away that we are fully immersed into a digital world. But I think that will come, for instance, not seeing coming 20, 30 years, 50 years, or 100 years. It will come. So that's a natural evolvement. So first, I believe that's a natural evolvement that you need to have a matched so-called money, so the future of money for that. On the other hand, when you look into Bitcoin, why Bitcoin has a value, then you saw the current money. It's so funny. Everybody, not everybody can, but every country, they print money, and there's no limitation. They just print. And we all know there's a big problem. The current money world is inflation. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that is not fair to everyone. But nobody is questioning about that. For instance, if you have a salary of $5,000 every month, if they print more money, in fact, your 5,000 worth maybe 4,500 or even 4,000. Mm-hmm. But then they create a negative impact of your wealth. But nobody is questioning about that. Because it looks like we don't have other way to run for that. So inflation is a problem of the current system that I would say the current system can't solve it.
It's also this thing where it would never be enough, right? Because if you constantly inflate your asset, or if you're constantly inflating, then you're always playing catch up, which is I think the whole idea.
Yeah, the thing that if you look into Bitcoin has fixed. Supply that can't change anymore. It's kind of 21 million. So 21 million is fixed. So no matter what's happened, it's 25. So that's why we call that one Bitcoin, one BTC is one BTC, but €1 is not €1. $1 is not $1 because $1 next year has less value than $1 this year. So that's really is something I think we should have more educational program to show to tell about that. But on the other hand, I hope. But I think slowly I also saw, for instance, like the central bank in all countries or regions, they are somehow more open, and also they try to also understand Bitcoin. But I think in the end, we will arrive to a point that we realize the value of that. And again, I believe that is the matched form of the money for in the future.
Sunny, your track record is very wide-reaching, as we said at the start of this episode. But I think one thing that also stood out to Sebastian and I is that you are a woman in this space, which is quite rare compared to the normal people you see talking about these kinds of things, right? You're 100 women at Davos in 2024, top 100 women at emerging tech. You've also been claimed to be one of the most influential women, I think, in crypto by different parties. What is it? What's important to you about opening up this space to women and making it more inclusive?
Yeah, well, to be frank, I'm not a fan to, let's say, because we highlight women, and then that is kind of against or the other side of men. I think in the end, we look for the results, right? And results matter, performance matter, and all these kind of things. But on the other hand, as a part of inclusion, especially in the technology domain, we see too less representative of women in the space. And for example, for blockchain, maybe I think this year, last year, the situation changes or improves. Well, in the past, more than 90% of people who are active in the blockchain industry are male. I'm not saying they're fine if they are male who are active there, but I think that we should have representative of female in this space as well. But while on the other hand, it's not just for having a presence of representative. It's just for, I would say, a fair opportunity that the women catch up the opportunity, have a chance to be educated, understand the new, the chance for them, and also be contributed to shaping the new, let's say Web3 or new industry, and also eventually I think they also should benefit from creating the wealth, or something like that. And if you look at the family, we have men, we have women, or whatever. I think it's equally important that female gets chance to have a chance to be in the industry and to contribute to that. So I'm happy to be in several kind of a community which try to address gender parity, and also try to support women in the tech and support the leadership, develop the leadership of female. So I think it's great, because you need an environment to grow. I think that's similar to everybody. It's not just for women or for men. You need a environment, and when I in the past years, sometimes when I participate when I was in hundreds of thousands of events, sometimes you see the whole room are male. If I'm the only female there, I think that's really imbalanced, right? So if we talk about crypto, if I'm the only woman there, I think where are our other female peers? So I think I don't think we only have one me. Last time I had a talk in Maastricht for kind of crypto, I was really amazed because all the audiences are male. I think what's happened? And on the other hand, that's you say when I believe diversity can bring diversity doesn't. Not only means about the gender diversity, but also means like we are in different countries or different background. I believe diversity really can bring kind of innovation and more performance as well, because we all have we can contribute in a different angle. So, that's something. Yes, I think it's necessary to bring this kind of diversity in the space, and I'm happy somehow, can raise voice for highlight or support the other women to step in, and also to especially in Davos, it was great. I was in many receptions for women leaders. It is really great to see that how can we contribute and continue to support to this space. Yeah.
I think also what you stressed, at least in my opinion, is important, where we're still driven by results, but it's about having the equal opportunity to engage and participate in getting those results. I mean, something that I always find quite enjoyable is like at my past company, Disorder, we had a team of 8 people, and all the active team members were women because they were just the best at doing the work. They were the ones getting the results.
You need to have more men.
I know, exactly. So I was disproportionate in the other way.
Well, in fact, gender parity, in fact, it's done one way. It's two-way, in fact.
Exactly. But I think what you said at the end ties it well together, where it's, well, if we're result-driven and we want to give equal opportunity, then really it's about leveraging the different perspectives, not per se what gender you are, but it's really about the perspectives and the value that you can bring to the table as an individual and the background that you have that can leverage those results. And that's why the opportunity to get in should be on an equal basis, because then it doesn't really matter that much who you are, but what you bring to the table, and that's where that play comes from.
Yeah.
So.
If I may add on that a little bit, is that in the end we all care about the impact, right? So I think that is a word that everybody's talking about now, and no matter what you do, in the end, what kind of impact do you create it? So that's, I think, slowly I saw, no matter from really rich people, family office, or whatever, and also from many organizations, it's a great sign that slowly everyone is more caring about impact than just kind of for revenue, for instance, like that. I think that's great. I think that's part of the impact when we talk about gender parity.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Because then, at least for me, the important element also is if it's such a big change that we're entering now in the coming few decades. I mean, we've already started this change. You want to make sure that people can engage in it in a way where it's not set to a small group of people. It doesn't matter per se who those people are, but you want it to be able to be accessed by everyone.
True.
Right? If it's creating the new world, we should be there together to shape it in some way.
Accessibility, inclusion. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful.
We talked about the future now, what you see is going to happen in the next decades to come. But what's next for you? Are there any like interesting projects you're working on, or anything that you're really excited about to coming in the next couple of years?
Yeah. Wow. Now, in fact, everybody's talking about agentic AI or AI agents. I think that's really a big thing, because current they even predict the current large language model will be obsolete in maybe 2-3 years, because if you look at what exactly is that, it's so it's just interaction. Let's see, you ask something, you get something, but this is such a, I would say it's step one. And in the end, the large language model itself is still not intelligent enough, because what we need in the end is kind of an agent that you don't need to command whatever, they should find a way to do things themselves. But also, again, this is scary because we're not ready for that. Well, I think many organizations and countries are pushing for AGI, the artificial general intelligence, and I think, as I just mentioned in the previous question, I believe the future of internet, the front end is agent. So that is something for me very interesting. So I dive much deeper into the crossover of AI and the crypto. And had a very interesting talk, in fact, in Davos last week with many opinion leaders to discuss a very new concept called AI as an asset class. Well, people also has a similar reaction. What is that? Well, can we develop AI? Because what I believe is that when we talk about digital inclusion, we are more refer to ask people or teach people to use AI. User is one role, but as a user, in fact, you don't generate wealth. You may gain some kind of knowledge, you can gain some convenience or solve some problem that you get some answers. But what I believe that we should create kind of scenario or platform that everybody should benefit from the future of wealth as well. Because the new technology like AI, like blockchain, they are a big wealth generator. The people who really nailed that, they are in it. Well, it's a bad example of Trump. It's a bad example, I would say. But I will mention a little bit. He released his coin 2 days before officially become the president, and in just 2-3 days, the coin of Trump has a market cap of I don't know exact number. I heard it's kind of 200 million or 2 billion, 200 billion or 300 billion, and I think this should not be privilege or for people like Trump. Everybody should. And if it's legal for Trump, it should be legal for everyone as well. So that is one example of crypto. On the other hand, for the AI, if you think about to use AI, why you don't think about that you are creating or own the AI agents? It doesn't mean that you need to be a developer, because not everyone, because everybody has different expertise. Well, that's just similar like the real estate. It's not that you need to become an architect, that you know how to build a house, then you own the house. But if you own the house, you can rent it out. You generate income, passive income, you generate wealth for you. That is exactly what I want to do. So I think the AI should be assets that people should have chance to step in to invest on that. And from for instance, a specific agent or what. And they should also get passive income by that investment. And besides that, they are user of that. So that's okay. Again, that's related to what my company is doing, bring different asset class on chain. So, but I would say that's one especially excites me, and I think that's really great. On the other hand, I'm very excited to bridge this kind of new asset class with family office. Since early this year, I kind of connected as an advisor of family office in Asia, and I try to build. That's another thing that I really try to build a global community, to drive impact, and also the impact is more broader than ESG. So we try to create impact for wealth, for arts, for money, for tech, or all kind of sense. So. In short, that I try to continue to explore the new asset class. On the other hand, I try to build a global community and to really have a very impactful network.
I mean, that also aligns greatly with the idea of democratizing these things.
Exactly.
So it brings it right back to the start of our conversation, which is a great way to wrap it up, I think.
Okay.
So, really interesting.
Thank you.
Really interesting. We do have a closing tradition, however, which is the object. So if you don't mind, what did you bring today, and why did you bring it?
In fact, I'm thinking of what is significant to me, because it's intangible. In fact, I should bring a piece of code, because I think maybe 2-3 years ago, I really create a very brief version of blockchain myself. I call it Sunny Jiang. Really, you need to, you only can swim by jumping into the water, right? You can't say, when you are in the water, you have to react, you have to learn. Otherwise, you're drowned. So that's the excellent way. That's what I believe, learning by doing. That's if you want to understand crypto, be in it. If you want to understand AI, be in it. So I also did some coding in the past, and I'll try to bring, kind of create my own chain. I think those are excellent practice, I would say. But if I really need to have a kind of a tangible object, I've taken one. Maybe I can bring.
Yes.
If you saw that.
House of Lords. Oh wow.
Yeah. In fact, it just happened in January, but I think it's interesting to show because we had a dinner in House of Lords in UK Parliament. I think you don't get that much of a chance to have a dinner inside of the UK Parliament. Also, really, the dinner was hosted by one of the lords there, and to address AI, digital asset, and blockchain, things like that. So it really feels honored to be a guest there. And in the end of the dinner, they bring this to everyone. It's just funny. In fact, it's just chocolate. Yeah, it's just chocolate. But you saw that it's customized. The whole box is with House of Lords. So I'll just keep this box.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is that don't be afraid to stand out, to raise your voice, and that's for everyone. It's not only for men, not only for women. If you want to really create impact in your industry or area, first, you will need to try to really gain the knowledge there, right? Become a kind of expert in your domain. Well, as expert itself doesn't create impact. You need to really kind of be visible and to stand out. So that's something if I may use this as a kind of courage to everyone, that I believe the future, it depends on how you create it. So just to pursue it and just to stand out. So that's what I want to say.
Wonderful. I think that's a wonderful piece of advice.
I think so too.
Okay.
Yeah, it applies at least to us as well. It's like we didn't sit back when we wanted to do something. We actually grabbed the chance of starting our company, starting the podcast. So you really do create your own future.
Yeah.
Excellent. Absolutely. Yeah. Sunny, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed this conversation. It was really informative as someone who is rather naive on these topics. I learned a lot.
Me too.
So thank you so much. It was a real honor and a pleasure.
Okay. Yeah. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our episode. If you want to connect with our guest personally, then give us a follow on LinkedIn at First Moves. We also have an Instagram at First Moves Podcast. And lastly, we ask you to leave a review. This will enable us to bring better guests on board and give you better content in the future. Have a nice day.